Durant pull-up jumper up the rim and in. Oh! And the Thunder win! All right, come on, let's sing the Thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your Thunder buddy and say these magic words.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Thunder Buddies podcast. One day after we did our last podcast.
I believe you call this an emergency podcast.
Emergency podcast. You remember what our first emergency podcast was?
No.
Kendrick Perkins out with a groin injury last February.
This one seems to be a little bit more important.
I was about to say, this one is slightly more important. If you haven't heard the news, which if you listen to this podcast, I'm assuming 100% of the listeners have heard the news. Sam Presti, he did not rule Kevin Durant out for the season today, but it kind of had that tone to it. They're removing him from basketball activities, soreness lingering in his foot, issues with that screw and everything. We don't know the exact specifics of it because they didn't give the exact specifics. They kind of say they're still going to look at imaging and things, but I mean, none of this sounds promising if you're just looking at this season, Kevin Durant returning for this season and the Thunder potentially getting to the playoffs or, getting a title.
It's not good. Not good at all. But I think most people sort of were coming to this side anyway. People were saying, well, even if we make the playoffs, how much damage are we really going to do in the playoffs? So from that standpoint, I don't think this is much of a shock. I don't think people are that disheartened or disappointed, just because I think you could see this coming.
Well, it's been such an accumulation of everything this season. You had Durant, you go McGarry fracture preseason, then the Durant-Jones fracture, then the string of minor injuries, and then the Westbrook hand fracture, and then the Durant ankle, and then the Durant toe, and then the Durant re-surgery, then the Ibaka thing. You throw in the Westbrook face break, and now this latest Durant thing. It's
Incredible.
Been wild. But you know what's today to me marked?
What?
The first time we could say, because all the way up until this point, it was like nobody'd been ruled out for the season. You know what I mean? And Durant still hasn't been.
Well, Serge has.
Well, regular season.
4 to 6 weeks.
But there's still there's still this lingering thought, hey, if they can hang around and he comes back early, he could be back for playoffs or some point in the first round.
You got to be sipping some pretty sweet Kool-Aid.
I'm not.
I'm not you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying you in general. Whoever is thinking that at this point is sipping some pretty sweet Kool-Aid.
I guess maybe then you can take it back to this week with the Serge injury. But up until this point, even through this disastrous injury season that they've had, there was always if all the dominoes somehow line up right around mid-April, they could make a run. At this point, this news today and everything that's happened with Serge in this past week has kind of been that this is kind of the end of the title hopes. I do still think they can make it in the playoffs. The Pelicans are facing injury issues. This team, I would probably favor to make it over the Pelicans still.
Yeah, the Ennis Cantor, Mitch McGarry can give you some of what Ennis gives you.
I don't think the Cantor injuries, I think he's not going to play tonight, but I think he'll be back within the next few.
I'm not so sure. And I don't believe anybody's going to be back sooner rather than later at this point. How could you with the season that we've had?
This isn't a structural thing or a surgery thing.
He missed 2 games because of a thigh bruise.
1 game.
2.
1.
2.
1.
1, and then he missed another one later. Look it up.
I am looking. Continue.
He
to
missed the
make your
Portland game.
point.
He missed the Portland
game for sure. What was the other game he missed?
Did he play L.A.?
Yeah,
he played L.A. and then he missed the next game after that, or either the next game after the Lakers game or the game after the Lakers.
This is the weirdest thing I've ever. I went to Google, and you know how sometimes when you go to Google, it makes you type in a word to confirm that you're not a bot or something.
Okay, I don't think Google has ever made me do that.
Well, I don't know what.
Let me
it was.
see what it looks like.
Well, I typed in the word, but you know what the word was? Presti.
Durant.
Presti. He's watching.
Oh man.
All right, continue.
That's creepy.
That was creepy.
I thought he missed 2 games with the thigh bruise. You tell me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong. He missed 1 game. Portland game, then he returned for the Lakers game. He's played ever since.
He's played ever since the Lakers game.
Yeah. Every game. At least 21 minutes.
Oh, I thought he missed one after that Lakers game. I was wrong. Yeah, I don't know, man. You saw him after the game. He had to use a team employee as a crutch to get to and from his locker.
But I mean, everyone who's had ankle injuries, they heal quick, especially if you've had them before. Like, they hurt, and they really hurt the next morning, and they linger a little bit. But, I mean, look, he's going to miss tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed Sunday or even next Tuesday against the Lakers, which are two games I think they can win anyways.
He doesn't strike me as the type of guy who has a high pain tolerance. I'm just going to say that.
I would agree with that, but I bet he's back by the end of next week. And, look, the Pelicans are playing without Anthony Davis right now, who sprained his ankle.
Look, I said all along, I got no doubt that they're making the playoffs. Even with Durant out,
You
even with
still have
Ibaka
no
out, I
doubt?
still have zero doubt that they're making the playoffs.
Well, that was the only discussion we were just having.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think the cancer thing, if he's out, maybe McGarry can give you what he gave you, and you don't think Kanter's going to be out that long. I sort of disagree. I'm not saying he's going to be out the rest of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he missed the next 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just said that he could miss next week. I'm just saying, strictly talking about, I still think this team could squeeze into the playoffs. But to this point, today's news is finally like, I really don't see a way they're getting by the Warriors because they haven't officially ruled Durant out, so there's just like lingering. Are you 100% sure he won't play?
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, they said we're moving in that direction, I believe is what Sam Presti said today.
Right.
Do you think it would be, like, let's say, he comes back in a week, he's like, I'm not feeling the soreness or whatever, and he wants to play. Do you think it would be bad to even try? At this point, it seems like the smart thing would just be to shut him down regardless.
You're not beating the Warriors. You're not beating the Warriors with a 60% Kevin Durant and maybe no Serge Ibaka. Maybe a 60% Serge Ibaka. It's not happening. I think they should just shut him down. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin comes out and at some point he feels like he can give something. I wouldn't be surprised if if they make the playoffs. I can't see Durant just not playing in the playoffs if they make it.
What kind of if you're the team and Durant is saying he wants to play,
then they're gonna have to protect him from himself.
Which is what if he's it's a tough slope to kind of go down because you want Durant to be so happy. Everything's about keeping Durant happy. The 2016 thing lingers. What if he's angry?
Well, he ain't gonna be happy if he messes
play.
Up his foot again.
He's not, no doubt about it. But what if he's saying, "Hey, I think I'm healthy enough to play. I want to try to go after this."
Then I think they let him play.
And you think that's a mistake?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the last time I talked about this, I got accused of playing a doctor. So I don't want to play doctor here. But, yeah, I think it's a mistake. If the guy is not healthy, then you have to sit him. But and athletes all the time think that they can play through pain, and that's what makes them who they are. But it's the team's job, the doctor's job, to protect them from themselves. And I think the Thunder might have to do that if they make the playoffs. And he feels like they got a shot to beat the Warriors, which, of course, he's going to feel like they can beat the Warriors because he's one of the best players in the world. Of course he's going to think that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Once again, my go-to word, interesting. What are you looking at out there? More construction workers?
We got like a flood going on over here. You can't really see it from your seat.
I see some water.
Yeah, it's like a drip or some sort of flowing water. I don't know.
These podcasts are turning into some strange stuff with the stuff going outside the window.
They've done a lot of work since yesterday out here. Remember we saw the rocks and all of that?
Yeah.
They've done a lot of work. Anyway.
To you, is this like I don't want to say like a sad day, but a concerning day for not just for this season, but for Durant future-wise? Because when he has the original Jones fracture, there's like talk, it could be, there's a scary history with NBA players and foot injuries, but, you don't know anything. Now that we've seen how much this has lingered this season, how concerned long-term are you about really a guy who has all the makings of an NBA legend?
I'm not concerned one bit if they sit him out the rest of this season, regular season, and playoffs if they make the postseason. If he can get this thing healed and get healthy, It's March. By October, this thing should be well past him. He should be well beyond it by training camp when it rolls around in October, late September, early October. So that's the reason that I would just sit him. I don't have concerns. I know historically guys have struggled with this in the past, but it's been a long time now. And if you give him even more months, just the rest of this season, the entire summer, I think he should be okay.
And they apparently got like 3 of the best foot specialists in the country, consulting on it all. And he's going to get the best treatment, but
how do you become the best foot specialist?
You study the heck out of foots in like
Foots?
Pediatric school. Feet? Did I say foots?
Yeah, you did.
Oh man, I'm struggling today.
Well, what
this
about
got
you?
Thrust on me.
You concerned long term?
I think there's like reason to for the first time really see where a legendary top 10 NBA playing career, which seems like everywhere it seemed like he was going that way with everything. 4 scoring titles before he was 25, 26. Already had an MVP. Just the talent and skill level for a 7-footer, and just what was ahead of him was just so bright. And it's the first time you're like, man, there's like this worry that things get derailed. Maybe it's a bad thing right now. I'm actually reading the David Halberstam book, Breaks of the Game.
Yep.
That really goes in depth on the Bill Walton stuff,
mm-hmm.
and how good he was and how much he had to go through and how he was so skilled everywhere, but his feet just mechanically just were always going to give out. Just because.
So basically, it's like you watched a scary movie and now you have a nightmare.
Yeah.
You read a book.
Well, I'm currently reading it.
And now you're putting that on Durant.
I'm not, and I don't want to
subconsciously.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's there.
It's in your mind.
And there's no way to know. He may come back next year, win MVP, and be incredible for another 10, 12 years, whatever. But there's just that worry that's off in the distance. And, it's nothing you can know now because, it's just something that it'll just see how the future plays itself out.
They got to just sit him down. I keep coming back to that. If they just sit him, and if he actually does it, subscribes to it, and just sits down, then I think he's going to be okay. Everyone keeps saying, Sam Presti keeps saying the actual bone that was fractured has healed. And there's no structural damage in there. There's nothing wrong with the actual initial injury. And if that's the case, then you would think
they said that. But although today it seemed like he wasn't saying that he knows that. He said, "Well, we're gonna find out soon."
Well, yeah.
Which was concerning that.
Which I think is what's got some people freaking out is because this soreness. Okay, it was a screw pushing up against the other bone.
It sounds like we're gonna get an update on him deeper in about 3 or 4 days or something.
Yeah.
What?
Just a lot of updates.
A lot of updates. The season's been filled with updates and press releases and everything. You know what? So, we both agree this is not a title team, obviously, as it currently stands. But I think the next month plus with potentially one playoff series is going to be interesting because I know there's one person on the planet that still thinks this team can win a championship.
Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. He's going to be reading the story. He's going to be reading the stories.
I understand what you're saying, but he cannot possibly think this team can win a championship.
You don't think he's sitting there
They can barely beat a team above 500.
You don't think he's sitting there thinking, you got to stop me if you're going to get past us. So, and I don't think anyone can stop me.
Yeah. What's their record? That's probably hard to find in this moment, but their record against teams without Kevin Durant, their record against 500
above 500, it's not good. I know it's not good. I've seen that stat.
Their wins are coming against under 500
teams. We're not debating right now if we think this team can win a playoff series.
No, I don't think Russell is arrogant enough to think that this team is a championship caliber team. He can never come out and say that.
I think he's confident enough to go down
arrogant.
I think he's confident enough to go down in an absolute blades of glory entertainment level against that Warriors team. He's going to be chucking up shots. We talk about big numbers and high usage. in a playoff series against the Warriors without Durant or probably Ibaka, and with him just wanting so bad
if Russell Westbrook without Kevin Durant by his side, maybe without Serge Ibaka by his side, pushes the Warriors to even 6 games, I will never, ever, ever, ever say a critical word again about Russell Westbrook.
You heard it here first.
I'm telling you. I will promise you that.
All I'm saying
never
is,
again will you hear a bad word.
All I'm saying is it's if you're a Thunder fan or if you're just a follower of good basketball, it's depressing to know that this team that I really think could be so good, it's just not going to have all its parts right for 2 out of the last 3 postseasons. If you count the Ibaka calf injury against the Spurs, then it's 3 out of 3. But for sure, Westbrook goes down against the Rockets, and that ends it. And then if Durant's out and Ibaka now, that ends it. We don't get to see what this team could have done if fully healthy. But at the same time, I'm not ruling out a highly entertaining final month and maybe likely short postseason run, but still I think is going to entertain us.
It's a shame because this was going to be one of the best first-round series maybe of all time.
And I think the deepest Thunder team around Kevin Durant that he's ever had. He's never played a game with Enes Kanter.
Nope.
His last game was against the Mavs on the trade deadline day. They had traded for Enes Kanter, but he hadn't, none of the guys had arrived in town. He sits the Charlotte game. I remember the Charlotte shoot-around I went to when Brooks said, he's just having a little soreness. We're not going to play him tonight. And that's when Kanter debuted. So he's never played with these new guys, with Augustine, with Kanter. I was really excited to see them try to pull it together because, like I said, I think it's as deep as it's been. But, we're probably not going to see that this year.
We'll see it next year. And they'll have an entire training camp, preseason, to figure it all out, get the pieces working, and it could be a special season next year. What a story that would be if they win the championship next season after everything they went through this season.
Yeah, and how much, there's the preseason pressure with the last year of his deal and him coming off the injury and just everything. That's going to be an interesting season next year. Yeah. This year was about as drama filled as any you've probably covered, even if they only go one round.
It's not even close. Not even close. The first year probably would be, with all the losing that they did, Nick Collison calling it the worst year of his career. That was different. This is not even close. The Kevin Durant drama individually next year, I think is going to be overblown.
As far as free agent wise?
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. This whole narrative, the guy hasn't given us any indication that he wants to play anywhere else. And why would you leave Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Steven Adams, Enes Kanter?
Regardless of, I don't want this to get into a free agency debate, but I will say next year,
I don't think it's going to be. My point is, I don't think it's going to be his last year in Oklahoma. Like, I don't think we have to worry about, any of us have to worry about, oh, there goes another shot. This is our last shot next year. Like, I don't think people have to think that. I think he's going to come back, and I don't think that it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, all I'll say is I do think him trying to return from this injury and, is he right and where is he at will help eat away at the free agency storylines where, surrounding him will be this story of a return. Not as much a free agency, although that, of course, will be talked about a ton. But you good? This is an emergency podcast, so we don't have to do our full 50-minute special. We got a Hawks game coming up in a few hours.
I'm good.
All right. We will talk to you again at some point next week. See ya.